Hey everyone, welcome back to the Heaps Creative Podcast, the show where we uncover creative archetypes. I'm your host, Tyler Jackson Chappell. In this episode, I sat down with Tom Ling. Tom's a South Australian-based photographer, educator, documenter of space and time, and conversational wizard. This is one of those chats where I could have asked Tom a question about photography and might have uncovered the meaning of life. Maybe not the meaning of life, but definitely some deep philosophical truths. Tom is someone who has very intentionally made decisions that led to a prolific and really rewarding creative life. And he's definitely an example of all the things this show is about and the things we're trying to uncover. Enjoy. Tom Ling, welcome to the Heaps Creative Podcast.
Good to be here.
Now, it was funny, we spoke when we were setting this up. Didn't want it to be the Ling show because we interviewed your sister Ailish. But like from that interview, which I kind of want to, before we jump in, anyone who does visual work, I really want to encourage people, go to your website, check out your stuff, even if you need to pause this because it's such beautiful work, and we're obviously going to be talking about it a bit. But also, yeah, if anyone's listening, make sure they go and listen to that interview with Ailish, because you'll find out that you grew up in a really creative family. How did that influence your work or like your creative life from the beginning?
I think we just grew up around people that just did things without necessarily it being, you know, a formal project or anything like that, but it was just the lifestyle, I think. Like Mum was always making things and fixing things and cooking, and you know she was great at home. But then Dad, he'd have his things. He'd play guitar, he'd build furniture, but it wouldn't even be that. It'd be just when he had time on the weekend or when you got holidays or whatever it was. We were always encouraged to be out doing things, building things, making things, which I think that just probably, without realising it at the time, has influenced us to just give things a shot and be curious. Just be curious to learn new things and try new things. And it's funny, I hadn't thought about that very much until I listened to the chat that you had with Ailish, and I was like, oh yeah, that was actually, you know, those little memories of sitting in the kitchen trying to make things while Mum's trying to get some cooking done, and I'm sure that we're just being pests and annoying and getting in the way, but she'd let us go and bake stuff that was clearly going to taste horrible. And, you know, like it was all of that growing up that probably shaped, I guess, who we are now. Yeah,
I think it's like, that's really cool. It's a thing you're not even thinking about, but it's like making dodgy furniture. Not saying your dad's furniture was dodgy, but just like that kind of do it yourself, like giving you that permission to be like, no, you can go do this. Like you don't have to outsource this. You don't have to go to IKEA. Like you can just do it yourself. If you want a cool bit of art on the wall, you can just make it.
Yeah, and it's like even like I remember we were doing a big trip around Australia, and instead of going to buy drawers for the 4-wheel drive, he decided to catch up with a mate and make his own, which would have taken hours and hours and hours, but it was just that attitude of it's the same with Mum and Dad of you can do it yourself, that I think we've all got a little bit of that.
I think that's really cool, like this kind of like efficiency obsessed kind of moment in time we're in. That idea of like, it's okay if it just takes a bit longer, but you get to be a part of the process and like put yourself into it is actually a really important thing.
I think there's importance in knowing how to do something, even if it might be, you know, things can be quite, you know, cheap and affordable now in comparison to what they were 20 years ago, but there's so much importance in the time it takes to figure out how to do it. Even if you never do it again, you took the time to learn something, and if you needed to, you could do it, or you could help somebody else. I don't think efficiency is a good metric for for what we should be doing all the time.
Yeah. I think especially in anything creative, but like you said, I think just it can leak into like home maintenance or like anything, is understanding how things work.
Well, even with, you know, us having, you know, our place now, like I've got so many memories of mum and dad spending so much time in the garden. Like every weekend when the weather was good, they'd be out the back in the garden. And it's, I don't know whether there's a connection there or not, but as soon as we got this, I was so excited to get out and get into the garden and have space to like make things and design what it's going to look like and just do the hard work as well, which isn't that hard, you know. Just getting to work with my hands is pretty nice. Yeah, you know, I've got a lot of friends that do that every day and I don't do that. So, but just being able to do that, get your hands dirty, like that's what's always been modelled to us. And so it was really cool getting to take that and run with it. Yeah.
And just kind of this broad skill set that isn't like, this is the one thing you do and that's it.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword though. Sometimes I wish that I was just like hyper-focused on one thing instead of focused on so many different things.
That was like the genesis story for this podcast was like, I wanted to like geek out about every kind of like creative practice and this is the way to do it.
Yeah, it's sometimes I wish I could be in like the 1% of something, you know, like be really, really exceptional at that one thing, but I've got too many interests, so it's probably never going to happen.
Well, that like multi-interest kind of approach, like Ailish said you were the tastemaker of the Ling household.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that quote.
Do you think that kind of interest in a lot of things is what started that? Or do you think that having good taste led to wanting to express yourself in a lot of different mediums?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I think when I was a teenager, or like early teens, we used to have a holiday house in Middleton, which my grandpa had for ages, and so we'd come over here all the time. And we were living, at that time, in like northern Victoria, like country Victoria. And so kind of that age, I was always into riding bikes and skating and doing stuff in a small country town where there's no ocean. But then when we were coming here, I just started to freak out a lot on surfing and surf culture. And then I think that's probably more than anything been the thing that's influenced the things that I was into. Like just spending hours flicking through all the magazines and collecting as much as you can and all the old surf films and whatever. And I don't remember ever intentionally trying to focus on like, you know, like how you present yourself or whatever it is from a taste perspective, but I was just always obsessed with these different, I guess, surf culture and skate culture, and then that bled into music, and then that's all probably been the stuff that's just influenced me. Even when we moved here, just those different little subcultures and seeing what people do, and it was so different to what I would see when we were living in Victoria as well, because it's like northern country Victoria. There's no ocean. It's a small town of about 3,000 or 4,000 people. And so it's probably those scenes that have, been the biggest influence, and then that's probably just bled out into the way I act and behave and whatever. Yeah.
Were you like actively pursuing those scenes through art and music?
Not back then, like not through art and music. Like I think those things were the gateway for like photography, because I used to look at all the images and stuff in the magazines, and that was probably what got me really, really interested in that. Definitely for music, like for the type of music that I listened to. Like I think back to that period of time, and it was, probably like the surf films, and even back to things like, you know, playing FIFA in those old PlayStation games that had like wicked soundtracks. I used to just get so obsessed by, and this is like before streaming, so you'd be on LimeWire or whatever the download site was, trying to find the soundtrack.
Trashing your parents' computer.
Trying to find the soundtrack for all of these things. And then, that they just got me really into music, and that was before I was even visually kind of creating anything. Being into music probably came first, but then as part of that, growing up when I was younger, we were always into like painting and drawing and those sorts of things, just growing up as kids, but it was never viewed as like a practice or anything like that. It was just, you know, a pastime that you'd do. But it wasn't until I got older, I think, those things, getting into music. But the music is so linked with, the old surf films and the old, the visuals that come with that. Yeah,
some of those old surf films are good to just have on in the background because of the soundtracks.
Oh, they're so good. And they've literally curated my early 20s. Yeah. It's been they were just, it's so inspiring. Oh, and just other people that have really great taste. And it was before algorithms and stuff. So that was kind of your gateway into discovering new things. It'd be the first thing I'd do once I'd seen a new film or whatever, is I'd go straight to the end and pause at the soundtrack and be like, that was epic. And you go and write down all the titles and then figure out how you can get them.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, that was how you heard great music in new bands. Yeah.
So was photography, what age did that start to come in?
I remember doing it in year 11 and 12 when we'd moved over here at high school. I did a photography class because I just thought it sounded fun, and I was, bodyboarding with friends and stuff down here, and I was really into that, and I just thought, this is cool. I can do a subject that I'd just go and do what I would love to be doing anyway, and just have a camera with me, and that's my schoolwork. That was cool. It's probably, I remember when I was probably around 18, just finding Dad's old film camera at home, which is such a cliche story because I feel like you've heard that from so many different people with the same thing, and just kind of just being really interested in it. I hadn't really seen that before. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't understand anything about, film or light or anything like that. And so, I went and got that kind of working, and then I had to figure out how to shoot it because I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't know how to manually expose an image properly. And then I just started doing that, and I started getting a few rolls of film back, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And they're all shocking, but when you get the prints, you get the small little prints back from the camera house or whatever it is, or Big W or whatever it was back then, and just being able to go through them all and being like, oh, that's cool, and hold them, and then see something that completely didn't work out like I wanted it to, and it looked really interesting. And I just got into probably film cameras from that. And even for years, I was just doing it traveling and hanging out with friends. And that was right when, I was finishing high school and going to uni. And so doing lots of surf trips and stuff. And so it was just cool having something with me. And I just enjoyed that, probably documentary process of just being on trips. And that was just, it wasn't even a visual practice or something too intentional back then. It was just, I loved having a camera when we were traveling with mates, and it kind of, I guess, grew from that.
Just the documenting part of it.
Yeah.
Was it all film back then?
It was, yeah.
Do you think that kind of delayed gratification process was an important part of it?
Definitely, yeah. And I don't know what it is. There's just, and I don't even know where it comes from, but for me, there was just something about that, the slowing it down process and having to think more about what I was doing that I really liked. And I work with digital cameras now as well, but I just love that thinking more before you push a button. And now, and maybe it's what it was back then and I didn't realize it at the time, but now I know that one of the most amazing things with cameras and with photography is I just love them as I guess a device that helps you be more present as you move through the day-to-day. Especially if you're traveling or you're somewhere new and you've got a camera over your shoulder and you've always got one eye out for something that looks interesting, or the light or the shadow or whatever it is. It's just a really cool tool for being a bit more present as you move through the day. And I don't know whether maybe that was something that I instinctively picked up when I was younger and didn't realise it, and it's just now I'm more aware of it and can articulate it. I'm not sure.
I love it when people segue into questions that I have. Because that was one was like, do you think you always had that kind of photographic eye, or do you think did you intentionally kind of build it, or is it something that just kind of happened when you started carrying a camera and you started looking for those moments?
I think I always had a visual eye, just for composition and for things. Even if I couldn't articulate why I thought they looked good, I would be more drawn to things that would be well designed or well put together, or the composition was good, or whatever it was. Like I remember, doing visual communication design when I was in like year 10 and 11 as well, and always loving that. And going back and looking at the magazines and the movies and stuff, you know, and being more drawn to the ones that were maybe a little bit more design forward. I think that would always get my eye. So I think that I had that, I guess, intentionality a little bit with what I was doing, but it was nothing formal. It was just like stumbling through and trying to figure it out. And it probably wasn't until I'd been doing it for a while, and it was more like 25, 26, that I actually started to be more intentional about, let's actually learn how to do this properly. And I started digging pretty deep into the work of other photographers and learning a little bit more about how you actually do it, instead of, it was all by feel before that. I didn't know anything about, you know, formal rules and all of that. It was me just teaching myself.
Do you think like growing up around art and like just kind of by proxy, you're going to see good art and good design and composition and...
Yeah, I think so, but I don't know where the interest, I've always been interested in design, and I don't know where it's come from. But I think when you're around an environment that encourages creativity, but also encourages, I think, curiosity more so than anything, that probably plays a big part, because you're asking questions, or you're seeing things and wondering why they are that way, or wanting to just dig deep into something, whatever it is. I think having that as a starting point, that was kind of the baseline for then whatever, and it could be artistic, it could be sport, it could be, you know, whatever it is that you're pursuing. I think having that curiosity as a starting point is really important for anybody. Yeah.
And you said kind of mid-20s is when you started to bring that kind of intentionality in. Do you, like, what's your philosophy as far as like, are you trying to like make an image, or are you just trying to capture like a candid moment?
Oh, it's probably changed a little bit. Like when I was younger, it was just about documenting what we were doing, whatever I was doing or where I was. I loved it with traveling, because it was always interesting because it was new. So everything was interesting when you're in different places. And then I think there's like a little window of time where I got really into music photography. And that was really cool, because that was purely just documenting what's going on. And you don't know what's going on. You kind of can't force it. You're just there to sort of bear witness to what's happening and try and hopefully visually represent that in a way that's sort of honest and interesting and looks good. But then I think, when that kind of slowed down during COVID is probably when I stopped as much focusing on music, and I started getting a lot more interested in my own projects. And I think with the personal work, it probably leans a little bit more to, it's still informed by documentary, but it's a little bit more about trying to create an image. More so, not so much an individual image, but more the collective body of work, trying to paint a picture of whatever it is, whatever the concept is that I'm working on. So that's probably still led through documentary, but a little bit more intentional with the concept that I'm working on.
So you like land on a concept for a project first, and then...
No, not always. No. Sometimes
it's just taking images and like, oh wow, these are actually all kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah, I kind of find more often than not, I'll start it's almost a little bit of, again, like similar to what I was talking about before, sometimes I'll get interested in things and at that moment I can't articulate why, like I don't understand why I'm interested in it, but if I just follow that little cue, you know, like the last 3 years I've been taking heaps of photos of jetties and rocks and the people that hang out in that place, and I didn't really know what that was at the start. I just found it was visually interesting when I'd go for a walk on a Saturday morning, and you know the sun was really nice in winter time, and you go for a walk out on Ngarrindjeri or wherever you are. It was like visually really great. The water would be super calm. There's, you know, there's architectural elements. There's also always different people interacting with that, and I found that really interesting. But I didn't know why, and then sometimes I find the concept of the project kind of bubbles to the surface throughout the process of doing it. Like I'll just, if something's interesting me, I'll just stick with it sometimes and let the concept or the idea come out later. I find that's probably more successful. Like I've got a few ideas in my head of different projects that I want to be working on, but sometimes they don't even get started. Whereas I find like if there's something that's getting my attention, I'm doing it, then I stick with that and see what comes next. Yeah.
And like looking through your work and like reading on your website, and it's funny. I always have this question about like what other people read into an artist's work opposed to kind of their thought process behind it. But this word just like jumped out at me, and it was escapism. And you kind of mentioned these jetties and taking photos of like travel and stuff, and they're kind of these like liminal spaces. Do you think it's the reason you're taking these photos, or you're kind of drawn to this idea, is capturing other people's escapism or your own as an artist?
Probably both, because I get like, I don't know what the percentage split would be between the two. I get so inspired when I'm in different places and when I'm on the road, just because everything's new, everything's different, and you're out of your normal routine. And I find that really exciting. But then at the same time, I think even whether it's locally as well, I'm getting more and more interested with how just people interact with the different spaces that they have. And I think the importance that those places, whatever it is, they play in that, whether it's the culture or the society or whatever, the role that these places play in creating space for people to live their lives doing whatever it is, but then also bringing people together as well. And it's like those little moments of whether it's fishing or hanging out during summer or whatever, it's kind of escaping out of the more routine aspects of our life, the stuff that we have to do, and just looking at those leisure spaces and what people do and how it brings people together. I find that really interesting. And looking at that, it's given me more inspiration to do things around home. Like sometimes I go through periods where I won't even want to pick up a camera because I don't find anything interesting because it's what I see every day. But then when I sort of build some of these, restrictions around focusing on certain aspects of where I am, then all of a sudden you start to see a place that you've spent years in a completely different light. And it probably comes back to what I was saying about before, that like the camera is then an avenue to understand something at a completely different level and a deeper level than you would before, where you're just passing through and you don't see that. And so, yeah, it's a long-winded answer to both.
Do you find like carrying a camera with you just everywhere you go adds to that? Because this is something I'm really interested in, and as a writer, like I try to carry a notebook with me everywhere to catch those like really fleeting, like, oh, this is a cool thing, or this is cool. And even if you're jotting down a word, or even if it's like capturing a quick snap of something passing, like I really believe that that's a muscle, and like to be open and willing to kind of receive these little creative sparks. Do you find that adds to it a lot?
Absolutely. And you never know where they're going to come from or when they're going to come. And it's probably the same for you as a writer. How bad do you feel where you don't have it and you have an idea or a thought and you don't write it down and you're like, I'll do it later, and then later on you cannot remember. You cannot remember what it was, and you're like, oh, that was a really cool idea, or that was a cool little thing that came into my head. And I can get so angry and frustrated sometimes if I don't have a camera with me and I see something and I miss it because I'm not there, and I'm like, I just needed that camera there. And it's good like motivation to have it with you, because again, it's a funny thing, just having it forces you almost to just be, you're mindful that it's there, and so you're more conscious of maybe what's going on around you. And I think I've really realised that later having Lola as well, like she's 14 months, but I've had a couple of moments where I've been like, oh man, like we've got lots of photos, and she's like my cool new little project because we're always taking photos. But yeah, when she turned 1, I was like, oh man, that's a whole year, and there's so much that I've missed because I didn't have my camera with me like that. So now I just need to always have it with me and be shooting every day because there's all of these really cool little moments that are happening. And if you don't do it, then it gets missed. Yeah.
So do you think it's like really changed the way you look at everything all the time?
Yeah. I think definitely in the last probably 5 or 6 years. I mean, it was always there, and traveling and stuff, it was there. But I think just in even not traveling as much now and being around home a bit more, it definitely, it forces me to be more aware of what's going on in my own sort of local environment in the day-to-day that, you know, previously I might have missed or might have just thought it was boring or mundane or whatever. Now it's giving me a little bit of a new lens to see that.
Yeah, very cool way to just stay present.
Yeah.
Did you kind of have to learn a lot of these things on your own? Did you have any teachers or mentors or anyone who kind of had a big impact on your actually learning the craft?
I've got when we were living up in Summerton Park, I've got a bunch of different. I kind of worked my way into meeting a bunch of different really cool photographers up there, and so I wouldn't say one person necessarily, but I think just meeting some great friends up there who work with cameras and just seeing what they do and learning from them and chatting with them, whether it's about gear or equipment or whether it's seeing the work that they do, and that's taught me a lot. I can be a little bit of a sole operator sometimes, and so that was really valuable. Even with art as well, like having different friends that are artists and meeting different people that have different mediums and just being able to chat more broadly on a deeper level, just about, I guess, visuals and critiquing things. And having some good friends that can be critical in a good way about things has been really valuable to bounce ideas off or just get feedback. Whereas I think before that, it was a little bit of just me doing my own thing. But then I started to realise it's actually really good to lean on other people because there's so many other people that are great and have some really knowledgeable perspectives and are so talented. And so I like to be a sponge when I'm around those sorts of people. It doesn't necessarily have to be photography though. I've got some great mates. Like I always chat about photos with guys like Jack, who we're pretty close with. And we used to do a little project called the Spray Room with, and even that little window of 2 years of bouncing things off him, visual things, that was really helpful. And I think about, we were talking about before, like my friend Mickey, who's moved over to Melbourne, now he's a painter and an artist, but just being able to sit down over coffee and critique things, whether it's our stuff, whether it's other people's stuff, that just teaches you so much about how you view things visually. Yeah.
I think that's there's a massive benefit to getting feedback from people who are in your field, but like for the most part, if you're putting like photographic work out into the world, the people who are consuming it aren't photographers. So really, it's really good to get the feedback from people who aren't in that world.
Yep, absolutely. Because photographers are funny too. Like they're really into images, but then you got to realize that not everybody is into image making, or not everybody needs to articulate why something looks amazing or what the technique is or what the story is. Not everybody knows how to even do that, and so or cares. And so sometimes getting feedback from other people who are completely outside of the world that you're in is some of the most valuable feedback that you get. Yeah.
Just like, oh no, this looks great, and maybe can't even articulate why.
Yeah. Or then they might tell you something about it that you're like, oh man, I've been looking at that for ages and you just told me something that I hadn't even noticed. Or it might be something that you thought, was an image that you weren't even happy with, that would have never seen the light of the day, and they're like, oh, I really love that one. And they can just pull out different things. Yeah.
I was talking to a writer friend the other day, and it happens so often that you'll submit some work and you'll kind of just throw in a piece that you're like, oh, this is pretty average, but might like fit a description or whatever they're looking for, and that's the piece they love, and you're like, oh, I thought that was pretty dodgy.
Yeah, it's like you need tools to get outside of your own head sometimes.
Yeah, and all like creative work is just so subjective to what
Yeah.
people appreciate about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So how has, you mentioned Lola and just wishing you had a camera like on you 24/7 to kind of document like this little tiny life. How else has being a parent kind of influenced your creative practice?
I think efficiency, for sure. I was saying before how like efficiency is not always a good metric. You definitely have to be pick your little windows of time that you get sometimes and really lock in when you get those. But I think it's similar to how a camera's influenced me. And again, it's probably cliche because every parent says this, but just that being able to be really present in what's going on at that time is something that kids bring. Really trying not to be distracted when you've got, like I'm still working full time and we both have pretty full schedules. And so when you get those pockets throughout your day to hang out with her, trying to be present and not be distracted is definitely one of the biggest learnings. And it's, I think it's a really amazing thing as well. Like just to be, with everything being so fast, whether it's your work, whether it's what you're seeing on the internet or on the phone, or just trying to manage all of your to-do lists and things that you have to do. Having this really cool little fun person to hang out with that just puts all that on hold is really amazing. I think also like I get super inspired by kids and just seeing how everything is interesting and exciting, and that's just get kind of bummed out sometimes. You're like, when did that go? When did that go in us? Because for them, like everything's exciting and they haven't been tainted by all of the rubbish that's to come in the future, that can take away from that. And I think that's really inspiring, that, she's excited by everything, and that's really cool. I think we should be excited by everything and we should find even the smallest things beautiful and amazing. And that's definitely something that young kids bring. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. As far as your like camera setup goes, what are you said you're kind of shooting digital and film right now. Yeah. What is there like specific for a project using film and like commercial work digital? Is there like a certain setup that you're using for specific things?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So if it's personal stuff, I've just got I'm pumped actually. Yesterday I just picked up my Contax G2, which is the best camera I've ever had. I'm on my third one at the moment. There's this like 90s rangefinder with these beautiful lenses. It's got really fast autofocus for a 90s camera, and it just exposes the images so well, and that's my workhorse. So I'll use that for basically anything personal. Anytime I'm traveling, I have that. I love shooting music with that as well. But I'll dance between film and digital, just depending on what the job is. So if it's personal, it'll probably be film. But if it's more corporate stuff, or if it's shooting for bands or for a festival or something, it'll just depend on what they want and whether, film's expensive as well. And so whether they've kind of got a budget for film or not. I would love to always, especially with music, I think music on black and white film is just the best. But it just depends if that's what, the client wants, if that's the kind of look that they go for, and if they've got, money to pay for film and processing. Whereas I still I'm loving digital more and more. Film's still what I'm passionate about. It probably goes back to that tangible thing. But, if I'm doing more corporate stuff, working with digital is just, it can be a lot easier and more affordable. And if that's that's the look and feel that the client or brand or company or whoever it is that needs the work, then you've got to match what they need. So it'll just depend on what the job is. But if it's me personally, I'm probably using film. Yeah.
And a lot of your work is like, this stunning like black and white. So do you shoot on black and white film, or are you doing that in post?
No, so I've pretty well, it's a funny thing, and I don't know why, but probably in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, I've almost gone exclusively to just black and white film. I'm toying with changing that now because I feel like it's kind of a visual thing that I've done, and I'm wondering whether I need to shake things up a little bit. But I just love the look of. I'm funny I'm not a big tech or gear guy. Like when I find what works, I'll just stick with that. So it's a decision that I don't have to think about. So like, just working with Kodak Tri-X 400 black and white film. I keep shooting with the same film stock, and I love it. Paired with that Contax, it's really great. Yeah.
No, I love it. Like I'm very like, it's funny, I'm not a big color person. Like I love shape in design, like, and I love I love composition, and I think that's what for me as a viewer of this, like why I love the black and white.
Yeah.
And is that something you're thinking about more? Like, are you still conscious of, even though it's black and white, there's obviously shades of black and white. Like, are you thinking about that a lot, or are you thinking more about composition and shape? And
it's kind of why I love working with black and white, because you start to view, you start to view what you're looking at almost in shapes and shades and contrast a little bit. I'll be more interested in the time of day that I'm shooting, so that there is those longer shadows and more contrast in the image. And I'll try and avoid shooting in the middle of the day just because it's so blown out and flat with the sun higher in the sky. But you just start to view everything. It's like you got black and white goggles on sometimes. And so it changes your subconscious a little bit sometimes. Or sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you just have a camera with you and you see something that's interesting and you'll shoot it regardless of, don't think too much. I think there is a downside as well to shooting, is that I think if you think too much about it, you can ruin it a little bit. Sometimes it's good to be impulsive. Yeah.
And you obviously we spoke about kind of that photographic eye growing, and even your corporate work that I've seen anyway still is very artistic. It's very beautiful. Cool. It's not just like your stock standard, here's a photo of something on a white background. Do you find that those two things play well together and almost encourage each other, or do you feel like if you're doing a lot of corporate work, the creative work suffers a bit, you don't want to come home and take photos? Or
it's not too bad, no, because I'm a full-time teacher and I teach photography and design, and so that's kind of been an intentional decision. I'd been thinking about it for ages during my 20s. I was like, do I go and do I push the full-time photography thing, or do I stick with teaching? I enjoy teaching, I'm good at teaching, and it's really cool being able to teach things that I'm passionate about and build courses and experiences about things that I love. And so because of that, I'm not taking on heaps of, I'll be limited with the amount of jobs that I can take on, and I'll pick and choose more with what I can do, and I'll work with people that I've got good relationships with. And so that hasn't, tainted my experience with my personal work too much. Whereas I know for other people that I've chatted to who do work full time, it can be that balance of I've been working so hard, on the stuff that's going to pay the bills, and then you can lose a little bit of energy for the personal stuff as well. But I haven't experienced that too much. It's probably more when I'm just busy with work and your day's really full. It can be really sometimes hard to get the energy to then go and work on your projects, even if it's just editing a few images at night time, or just, putting together something for an application or whatever. It can be hard to get that mental energy to keep going.
I was going to say, how do you do it? Obviously, full-time job, you're pumping out really high-quality creative work. After this, you're going to go DJ and be a dad. How do you do it, man?
Oh, it's pretty hard. My sister always laughs at me because she's like, Tom, she thinks I've got ADHD. I don't think I do at all. She diagnoses me sometimes. She's like, you're always doing too many different things. I think I'm just interested in lots of different stuff. And it's a double-edged sword because sometimes I can find it hard to relax and have downtime. But I think it probably comes, again, going full circle back to, my parents and my upbringing and that sort of thing. Like my dad was always working on something. Like it might not be work, but he's always had a project or something to go on. And then I think the older that I've got, I guess almost like philosophically, I've just think a lot more about, the time that we've got and not wanting to waste that, and having those broad interests is just like, there's so many cool things that I could learn more by trying. And I just want to be able to do as much of that as I can. And I also really love that feeling of being thrown a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And that feeling of like being right on the edge of where you're kind of in control, but you're not in control. And it's like something that you haven't done before, or it's throwing you out of what you're doing. And that stuff I find really exciting. And the longer I have between those moments, the more I miss that. And I wouldn't say bored's the right word, but I start to feel a little bit stale, and I need that like little hit of challenge. And so I don't know how, I think I just try and be really intentional with those moments. When I get moments of time to do something, then I'll try and make sure I use it well. But then, the downside of that is you become a jack of all trades and a master of none, because
you're preaching to the choir.
yeah, you just but I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
that doesn't bother me too much.
So as far as like obviously balancing like a full-time job, like as a creative, what do you think the pros and cons are of that? And obviously you've done something very intentional that is parallel with your creative practice.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the pros are a consistent paycheck for sure. That's really helpful. It kind of can allow you to do other projects, especially projects that don't really make you much money. They tend to cost money. So, but like I look at teaching and working, and like I get really inspired working with people, working with kids. Like I think kids are awesome. I think they cop a hard rap, and we don't give them enough credit sometimes. And so I love being able to work with young people, because I find them inspiring. I love working with teams of people as well. Like I love being inspired by some of the colleagues that I work with and have worked with over the last whatever many years. Like I'm always learning from other people. And I really like that. So that, even if it's outside of a creative field, I find that's really, really valuable. Just learning how to work with people and how to work in teams. I think working a full-time job as well, like it does force you to use your time well as well. Like I know if I wasn't doing that, when I've got time off, I can get lost in kind of like my curiosity sometimes without necessarily having an end goal or working towards something. Not that has to always be the outcome. Sometimes it's okay to just get lost. But I think when you do have that limited time, then it does force me to get really like hone in and try and grab my attention and my focus into what I'm trying to do. I also just think working a full-time job, you learn things that you wouldn't if you were, just if I was by myself or sole trader or, whatever it was, working as a photographer, even just about how the world works. You learn about the complexity of the world. You learn about the complexity of different people's lived experience, and just seeing so many different families and young people, and then all the people that I work with. It probably teaches me to be a little bit more grateful because of, how privileged my sort of experience has been growing up. And so that perspective that working gives is also really, really valuable. I think there's also, like, I'm okay at teaching. Like, it's something that I'm not too bad at, and I think there's value in sticking with something that you have a skill set into and not knowing what's going to come from that, but being able to spend time doing it. And then also, it's a funny thing because you can't measure the outcomes. Like, it's really difficult. Like, you can measure outcomes on grades and whatever, but it's so much more than that. And sometimes you don't know where your influence or impact is going to lead for different people, and that can ripple out into the world, and it can be significant, but you might not actually know what it is. And I think that's a really cool thing. Yeah.
You kind of mentioned like being very intentional with your time. And this is something I'm really curious as a creative who works with a very visual medium. What is your relationship with social media and work and time?
You probably know that when it takes two weeks for me to message you back, you might actually know the answer.
That's a good thing.
That.
That's a great thing though. Like, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, look, I used to be really into it. I was heaps into Tumblr when I was younger. Right. I used to think Tumblr was the coolest thing because,
but again, I mean, that's like a far less like insidious.
I know that was like pre-algorithm and stuff, but that was really cool because you'd get, you know, this little gateway into, again, these like weird little niche visual communities where it was a super visual platform at the time that I was using it, which was like 15 years ago. And I love that because it gave you the access to all of these different visual things that you might not have seen before. And I found that really inspiring. And I find that, I guess, probably Instagram's the main thing we're talking about now, because that's really the only social media platform that I engage with. And it was really cool. I was really into it for a while, just through that connection to different people doing different creative things. And I felt like it was pretty inspiring. But yeah, over probably the last 3 years or 5 years, I don't know, I'm pulling more and more away from it. I find it distracting. And I also get really, really concerned just like with the way that algorithms engage with what people are engaging, and how much is it actually, I don't know, impacting my perspective and how I view things and what I view as being good or bad, or just that whole idea of information being fed to me that I'm not in control of, and the machine's kind of deciding what I like and what I don't like that rattles me. How much are we just becoming products of what's being fed to us? And from that perspective, I'm pulled way back from what I engage with on socials. Like, yeah, my social feed's now basically just surfing highlights. And like, if I need some downtime, like even, so many of the amazing creative people that I have followed over the years that I find really inspiring, now you almost can't find them on there if they're not trending with your algorithm. And so, I'm definitely pulling back from that. Even posting is such a painstaking process for me, figuring out what to post. And I've got so many photographs just sitting on my laptop, and it's almost too much effort for me to put something out there. But then I also understand, like, it's such a necessity, especially for people working in a creative field, whatever it is, to have that as like a platform that they can communicate. Like, I understand its importance for sure. I just struggle with it at the moment.
Does it, like, I know you said being like someone who had good taste was not an intentional thing, but like you said, like, it's an important thing, like, as a creative, to develop your own likes and dislikes and taste, essentially.
And that's what worries me. I think now, like, are we developing our own likes and dislikes, or are we just developing what's being pushed to us? You know, like, and we're an interesting age because we existed pre-algorithm. And so, like, even when something like Instagram started, it was like a chronological feed. And so what you were seeing was just based on what was posted when. And that was really cool because you could really curate the people. I loved it because I could curate the people that I followed. I almost used it as like a place of inspiration. There were heaps of friends and stuff that I didn't even follow because I was just following, skaters and photographers and surfers and artists and musicians. And then I could have this feed of really inspiring things that I could look at. Whereas now I just question, like, what's the impact when our taste, when what we define as looking good visually is defined not by educated critique or whatever, but it's just defined by internet trends pushed by algorithms like that. I don't know. That worries me.
What's the solution, do you think?
Honestly, I think the solution is to pull back.
Right.
I think, because I think the risk there is then also we're just trying to replicate what's trending at that moment. And so I think that can be, that can take away from people trying to develop their own, I guess, visual identity. So, like when you see something, you're like, oh, that's a so-and-so piece of work, because you can see that that's their thing. And I think, I'm not so concerned about older people, because I think by older, I mean like if you're a millennial, like 30 plus, because we're not as impacted by it because we experienced it beforehand. So I think we can regulate how we engage that a lot better. But I see young people coming through in school, and you think about the next generation of creative people coming through. And on the one hand, it's really cool because they're so connected to like global trends that are going on. And that's really, really cool. But then I wonder where that line is of where that sort of creativity is impacted, and we're not maybe critically thinking about what we want to create and put out there, and maybe we're responding too much to what's on trend at that moment in time. I don't know, but I think we'll see it play out in the next 10 years or so. And then does everything start to look the same? Do we start to have less space for that difference or stuff that maybe you don't like and you look at, but it's confronting or interesting, or it makes you question something? Like, I wonder if we'll lose a little bit of that because things become more the same. I don't know. I don't know.
And that's a super insightful answer. I think maybe you give millennials a bit too much credit. We're an interesting, we are an interesting generation, because we are the generation that had access to all of this stuff, before it became so controlled like it is now. And I probably being in education as well, I just see the impact of algorithms on young people, and it's huge. And often not in a good way. And so, it just makes me curious and a little bit apprehensive about what the impact of that's going to be as this, we're already seeing it with, Gen Z coming through, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 10, 20 years. Yeah. It's not meant to be not meant to be doom and gloom, but I think super nihilistic kind of no, but I think that you use the word curiosity, and I think that's really important. I'm having a young kid, quite negatively inclined to view these things. So I think just even the use of that word is a really important place to stay, that it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. And
I think the optimism there is that we're starting to I think we've let the rope out way too long, and whether it's through policy or whatever, we're starting to pull it back in a little bit. Everything was so new and we didn't know what was going on, and so we've really let the cat out of the bag, but people are catching on. And I think I'm optimistic absolutely about what it's going to look like for the future. I think we're just starting to realise though that maybe we need to be a little bit more intentional and not just have a free-for-all with this kind of stuff.
Well, I think stuff like this, your two photo books, Carpark Stories and Hart Avenue, things like that, this tangible, hold it in your hand, offline experience of art. You said, because you're not seeing it in the context of a little grid where if you move your thumb, you're seeing something else that looks exactly like it. You have to look at it a little more critically and of its own merit. But just on those two projects, and you kind of mentioned before, the theme or the kind of vision for a project, did you have something specific going into those? And just on those as well, like, why did you decide to self-publish them?
Cool. Yeah, two different answers for each one. I think Carpark Stories was the first sort of book that I made, and that was more of, I guess, a collection of stuff that I had been sitting on for 5 or 6 years, that I wanted to pull together into one, I guess, semi-cohesive sort of body of work. And so that was a little bit more of, I had the concept, but I wanted to pull a whole bunch of different things together. And it was, a lot of it was based around traveling around Australia and just, yeah, the time spent meeting different people and doing different things and those conversations that you have. And so that was, I guess, a lot of the work that I'd already been sitting on, but I hadn't quite known what I wanted to do with it. And it's probably an example of then where the concepts then come together after I'd been working on all of this stuff, but I wasn't quite sure where it was going to go. Whereas Hart Avenue was interesting. We'd moved back to Encounter Bay for about 12 months. It was during COVID, and that was the spot where I grew up, and that was a much more focused project because I'd started going for walks. It was winter time or kind of autumn, and I'd get home from work in the afternoon and the sun would be going down. I'd just always love to go for a walk, just get out of the house. And I just started shooting this, I guess, this suburb or this little town that I'd always grown up in. And then I just started becoming really, really interested in that because it had been about, I reckon, 10 years since I'd lived there. And I just saw the place with a completely different perspective and started walking down streets I'd never walked down and started being interested in different things. You know, like I started realising there was all this beautiful mid-century architecture scattered throughout the hills in Encounter Bay that I'd never noticed before because I'd never had an interest in it before. And so that project was much more about, I guess, painting a bit of a picture visually of that place where I'd grown up. And so that was a lot more intentional. But even then, I wasn't thinking about that when I started taking the photos. It was just, it came out of the process of taking photos and just going for a walk. And then that kind of came next. So I think it always starts with taking photos, and then sometimes the concept comes after that. Yeah.
And was there a reason you decided to self-publish? Or it's just quite hard to get a publisher to take on a photo book?
Probably, yeah, a little bit of both. Like, it's pretty hard to get a book published. It's pretty hard to find somebody willing to take it on. But then at the same time, it is probably a little bit of impatience on my part. I kind of couldn't be bothered with the process. And I just thought, and it was the first, like, I'd always made different zines and I really love printing things so that people can have them and you can hold them, even if it's just me, so that it's something tangible, like you said before. But these are the first couple of books that I'd done, and so I kind of felt like I wanted to have a go first as well. I really enjoy the design side of things, like the sequencing, the putting it together, and so it made sense because I love being able to do that by myself and have the full autonomy over how I do that. I would love to publish a book. Like, it's always been a goal, and it will be a goal until I get it done. I'm sure that I will at some stage, but I'd love to publish a book with a reputable publisher, just to go through that process, because I think that would help it to have a bit of a broader reach. But also I think the process of just learning for me with working with someone like that would be huge, being able to learn about that side of things. So it's on the cards. But it was definitely the learning process behind, like, even from the design perspective and understanding like pre-production stuff, and that was really valuable in doing it myself as well. Yeah.
I just want to highlight this 2025 finalist for the Bowness, is that how you say it? Photography
Bowness,
Prize,
yeah.
which is the richest photography prize in Australia.
Yeah.
And you don't strike me as somebody who necessarily really cares about that stuff. But like, what did that mean to like have work in the Museum of Australian Photography and be recognised?
That was really cool. Yeah, definitely. I might come across like I don't care, but definitely do care about those little moments. I think it's validating is probably the biggest learning out of that. When you're working on things, it can feel like you're failing all the time. Not that you are, but when you're getting knocked back for things, or you've got work that you really love, but maybe it's not getting recognised or whatever. You have to have a pretty thick skin to keep putting stuff out there. And so, yeah, to be recognised for that, and even we went over to Melbourne for it, and just being able to have the work beautifully framed and hung in an established venue like that, next to some amazing contemporary photographers. That was really, really cool. And it probably just validates, like, I've been into this thing for a little bit now, and I've been working on having sort of a recognisable, I guess, visual aesthetic, because I've really liked it, and to have other, people within a field that's quite, reputable, to also kind of acknowledge, hey, it's, your work's okay. That was really nice, because you sometimes feels like you're just getting knocked back all the time. So that was a good little, I guess, a little hit of confidence that, hey, this trip that I'm on is worth pursuing, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Like, it's such a cool thing.
Yeah. It's very, very cool. And it was, like I said, just being able to be hanging in a room next to some people that really inspire you, who you look up to, was definitely a highlight of that. Yeah.
Is there anything you're working on now? Any big projects?
Yeah, there's a couple of projects sort of bubbling at the surface. We've been living in this new place for a couple of years now, and so there's a bit of a consistent theme. I always get really interested in trying to understand the space that I'm living. So I've started sort of photographing around here. Again, I don't know what that's going to come out like, and I'm trying to make it different, very different to what I've done previously. Visually, just trying some different techniques, a bit of mix of digital and film, and maybe some still life work as well to go with it. So that's something I'm working on at the moment. There's always some different things bubbling away. Like, I've been photographing for the last couple of years, just some of the old beach shacks and mid-century architecture around here as well.
That's something I love, and I hope it doesn't go away.
Yeah. So I'm sitting on a bit of that, and I'm just collecting it. I don't know whether it's going to come, be anything or not, but I really love a lot of those old mid-century beach houses with the flat skillion roofs, and so that's sitting there. And I've got a couple of other projects which are sort of in the pipeline for potentially a couple of book projects, but I'm just not sure. Still toying with the ideas, and I'm not sure whether they're going to get legs or not. But at the moment, I'm just sort of focusing on where we're living, wanting to create a bit of a project on that. And I guess probably the other thing is I'm sitting on some work from the last 2 or 3 years, which I'm going to show as part of Sala at Hither and Yon in Wollonga. So that's a beautiful little cellar door that I do a bunch of work for them. And Mal, who's one of the owners of Hither and Yon, he's always really good to me, and he got me in last year. He's like, hey, we're the major sponsor for Sala. Do you want to come in and do something? So we had a show there last year, and that was really cool. He shouted everyone pizza, and obviously there's great wine there because they make amazing wine. And had a whole bunch of friends and people that we know come out to have a look at that. So we're doing that again this year. So I've got some new pieces that I'm working on that I've been holding on to for the last probably 12 months up to about 3 years. But again, that kind of that body of work it's a lot bigger, and so I'd love for that to kind of grow some legs as well. I'm not sure where it's going to end up, but there's more to it than what's going to be exhibited on that. Yeah, I think it's the 1st of August, but I'm not sure where we're going to go with that. It's sitting there, it's bubbling. We'll wait and see how that eventuates. Yeah,
it seems like you've got it figured out. And I guess like this is still like something I think is important for people to kind of understand or like hear a perspective on, is like, what's the biggest challenge you face as a creative, like day to day, and like how do you overcome it?
I think like motivation can be a big one, like when you're busy or when you've just got lots of things on your plate. It's probably not so much, it's motivation, but it's also energy. And even if it's just cognitive energy, you know, if work's really busy, or in juggling work and time with Lola and time with Sarah and all of those things, sometimes when you get those moments, whether it's in the evening or on the weekend or whatever, you just need downtime. And so definitely a big challenge is, I think, it's that energy, being able to keep it going. And because our work is in schools, I often work in term rotations where I get the holiday breaks off, and I think one of my biggest frustrations is I'll often get to the second week of the holidays and my brain will just be like bursting with all these different ideas, and then a lot of them don't come to fruition, because then you get these ideas, you make half a start, and then you get back into needing to juggle all the other things, and so that can definitely feel really frustrating when you've got some cool ideas but maybe you don't necessarily have the time or just the mental energy to get stuck into them. I think I do I try and overcome those just by realizing sometimes it's okay to do less, and just trying to bring my attention to what's the one thing that I actually want to work on. And I don't need to get it done in a few weeks. I can sit on it. And that's one of the great things with photography, and one of the great things that I learned from, you know, a lot of other photographers that I look up to. Some of the most amazing bodies of work that they put out in the world might be 20 years worth of work. And so it doesn't have to be something that comes about quickly, and actually more often than not it's heaps better if you give it time.
I was going to say, it seems like you have like a really healthy relationship with like patience and like at every aspect of photography.
I think you need to. I think, you know, like I've been doing it for a while now, and I was chatting with somebody the other day about it, about how it's just one of those cool things, because it's not like a sport or like surfing or whatever, where your body eventually starts to have a bit of a use by date on it, you know, like I'm still going to be surfing when I'm 65, but I'm not going to be surfing like I am now. Like I'll probably struggle to do that. Whereas I think photography is great because you can, and art and a whole bunch of different things, I can be doing it when I'm 85. And I figure if I'm okay at it now, you know, in 30 years time, hopefully I'll be pretty good. And hopefully I'll have a pretty cool body of work by then. And so, yeah, I really like that there's not really an end date, and it's something, you know, we've talked about how, you know, I've got lots of different creative interests, and sometimes I can find it difficult to hone my attention onto one thing, but photography is definitely that one thing that I just have that, you know, idea of if I give enough time to it, then hopefully there'll be something good to show, even if that's in 40 years time, you know?
Like I really want to bookmark that. Like I think that's a really good thing. And especially like something I always ask people I have on the show is like, do you have advice for emerging creatives? And I feel like you've given so much throughout this. Like, but like if you just wanted to distill maybe one idea that maybe to an emerging creative, or you wish somebody had told you when you started out.
It's hard to distill into one thing. I think without wanting to sound too simplistic, I think my one biggest thing, which it has always been modeled to me again from like my upbringing, but it's just that to be interested and be curious and then have a go. There's so many reasons not to try something. And we make so many excuses. And there's so many excuses not to have a go at something or not to put yourself out there. And because it's easier to make excuses, and there's always something else that you can blame for not trying something. And I say that with myself as well. Like, I'm not pointing the finger at other people, I'm pointing the finger at myself. And I think that biggest piece of advice is just to be curious in something, whatever it is, and to have a go and to stick with it. Like, stick with it. You need to spend time on something to become confident and like semi-capable at it. So just be curious and have a go and see what will happen, because, you know, it brings so much to you, but then also, you know, doors can open, you meet other people who are into that, and they can lead you to other things, and you can become inspired through other means. But none of that happens if you don't, first of all, be curious about something and then have a try at it. Yeah.
I'm trying to embody all this. I'm all over the like give everything a crack, but I suck with the sticking with it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's funny, it's cliche advice too, because sometimes, you know, sometimes it takes years of trying different things before you find that thing that really sticks for you. But when you find it, try and put some time into it. Yeah. Yeah.
2 more questions.
Cool.
Do you have a like single project that you're most proud of?
I think obviously getting the image in the as a finalist last year at the Bowness Photography Prize, that was part of a project, but I'm definitely really proud of that, because that's probably my first kind of significant, like, real public recognition in, I guess, the art world. I've really enjoyed, though, the 2 photo books that I've worked on. Probably Hart Avenue, I think, I'm most proud of, because that was my most, I guess, conceptually targeted thing that I've done, where I've kind of had an idea. Even I put restraints around what I was doing, you know, with what I was shooting visually, what I wanted it to look like, the location that I allowed myself to go to. Like, I really put some restraints around it to see if I could do it and see what would come of that. And that was a really interesting, I guess, creative experience personally, just being able to limit myself and then have to work within those boundaries. And I think I was pretty proud of how that came together. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Last question. I'm very excited to hear this answer. Having like
No
heard,
pressure.
having heard just like how cognizant you are of like the long game and how patient you are with your practice. What does it look like in 5 years?
Maybe published a book. I don't know. Like, not self-published, but had a book published. I've had a few different shows in different places. I would love to do a big show at in a gallery, in a local, like, South Australian gallery. I think I'd be really pumped with that. And I would love to do something a bit more substantial with the space, and even the way that I put that together. I'd love to have a more substantial show in South Australia at sort of an established, I guess, gallery space in the next 5 years. That would definitely be a little bit of a goal. As far as what it looks like, though, I think it's going to be more of the same. Still trying to work on projects, still trying to shoot as much as I can, still trying to just be present with what's going on around me, and hopefully do some justice to documenting that in a way that other people find interesting. The funny thing with photography is, though, it almost doesn't matter if anybody else finds it interesting, because it's such a self-indulgent process that if I'm learning from it, then to me that's a win. but it is also really nice when other people want to see it too, and they enjoy it. Yeah.
That's a like great view of it. Is like absolute worst case scenario is you end up with this really beautiful kind of documentation of your experience. And
yeah, and it's funny. It's like if I did it for the next 30 years and nobody saw it, it would still be a worthwhile experience. So the people seeing the work it's really good. It pushes me in, like, out of my comfort zone, because it, you know, you're having to put yourself out there when you're putting something on a wall or in a book or whatever, because it opens yourself to critique and people seeing it and not liking it or thinking it's rubbish or not understanding it or like whatever. And so I think that process creatively is important. So I want to keep doing shows or making books, because it forces me to think more critically about what I'm doing, and is there any even value in putting it out there? Is it bringing something to the world? If not, should I be doing it?
I think the answer is objectively yes.
Yeah. So keep shooting and keep putting on shows is hopefully what it's going to look like over the next 5 years, and hopefully something a little bit more substantial, maybe looking at just how I can engage an audience in more of a multimodal way. I'd be really curious about that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I think that's a really cool place to end. Where can people find you? I'll put links to your website and the socials that you don't use.
Instagram's probably where I put most of my stuff. Instagram and website's probably the best option, I think. I'll try and be better at updating socials every now and again, because I know it's good to keep getting work out there and let people see what's going on. But definitely, Instagram and my website would be the two places to reach out or to have a look at anything if you're interested.
Awesome. Anything else you want to plug?
This podcast has been pretty good. I think, what's going on? You've thrown me there.
Carpark Stories and Hart Avenue still available anywhere for people to grab?
I've got Carpark Stories isn't, but I've got a few copies of Hart Avenue available. So if anybody's interested, just send me a message and we can sort that out. I've got a few. I think I've got about 10 left over that I'd love to get rid of, because I'd rather them be in somebody else's hands than in mine. So yeah, there you go. There's my plug. My selfish plug.
Buy the books.
Hart Avenue, buy the books. And probably like it's the first weekend of August that we're going to have this show at Hither and Yon. So it's normally cold and wintry with the fire going inside. So come down, drink some good wine, have a look at some photographs and grab one if you want to. I'll normally try and print them big and keep the price down as much as I can so that they're accessible. So yeah, come and have a look at that show. It still doesn't have a title. I can't give it a title yet. I'm still working on that, but that'll be coming out in August, and that'll be up on the socials to keep track of. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Tom Ling, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you as always for listening along and supporting the Heaps Creative podcast. This episode was recorded on Ngarrindjeri land on the Fleurieu Peninsula. Remember, if you want to continue to support the show, just follow along on socials. Make sure you go back and listen to all the past episodes, and you can support the show financially by just heading to the website and clicking on Buy Me a Coffee. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.